Many young men and women dream of being a commercial airline pilot, but many airline pilots dream of retiring early. But retiring at 55 may not just be an age decision, it's a math decision. Today, we're looking at whether a pilot can retire at 55 and what the numbers need to show before making that call.
Welcome to a Wiser Retirement Podcast, where we cut through the noise and bring you real, honest conversations about investing, retirement, and building lasting wealth. No sales pitches, no gimmicks, just insights to help you stop guessing and start planning your financial future.
Welcome to a Wiser Retirement Podcast. I'm Casey Smith. Today, I'm joined with Grace Pavel, Financial Planning Associate, here with us. We will be discussing, can a pilot retire at 55? Good morning, Grace.
Good morning.
How are you doing?
I'm good.
Grace is preparing for the CFP exam.
Yeah, so if I look like I'm tired, I am.
You've been working very hard. You come in early in the mornings to study. I understand you're studying after work.
Yes.
You're putting in the time.
Yes.
So hopefully you'll be rewarded.
Hopefully it pays off.
Yeah. A lot of people don't get it through the first time. I think it's all the stress.
I know. It's anticipation. Like, I'm 2 weeks out from the exam right now, and it's already hitting me. Like, I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm struggling to sleep already. Like, I'm thinking about it all the time. I'm like, I gotta chill.
Right.
Because that's like 90% of the game is just being able to like have your head straight going.
I feel like when you go in the second time, you know what to expect.
Right.
There's no surprises.
Right. But I'm trying just
people
to.
are calmer. So we have to
I know.
pretend this is the second time so you'll get through it.
I know. Let's trick my brain.
Well, no better distraction than a podcast.
Right. Yeah. We talk about pilots.
And we get to talk about pilots. Grace does a lot of work with me, and we work with quite a few people in aviation.
Pilots,
so
yep,
this is right down your alley.
Yes.
All right. So retiring at 55 means you'll be leaving the workforce 10 years early. Pilots have a mandatory retirement right now at age 65. So your age really matters.
Yeah.
There are several, I guess, markers that we could think of here. 55 is important because at age 55, you can pull money out of your 401k plan without a 10% penalty.
Right.
But if you roll it to an IRA, you can't without a 10% penalty. So early retirees need to leave their money inside their 401k plans, right? Before the next marker is 59 and a half. That's the general age at which you can start withdrawing from really any retirement account without any tax penalty. Next one is 62. That's the earliest you can take Social Security, but you'll take a permanent penalty for taking it early. So you're going to get it much less than waiting until your full retirement age. But before we get to full retirement age, for most listeners who were born in 1960 or later, that's age 67. There's another marker, which is age 65. That's your Medicare eligibility age. So that's also the age at which a Part 121 commercial airline pilot has to stop working, is age 65. So age 65, mandatory retirement. Age 67 is when you get your first full Social Security. And then the last big number is age 70. If you delayed Social Security, you would get a increase in your benefit from 67 to 70 at 8% per year. So age 70 is the maximum amount you can get in Social Security. If you wait past 71 or later, you are leaving money to the government.
Right.
And you'll never get that. They don't pay you back, though. They don't give you back pay. So here's something, this is why I love doing podcasts, because it forces me to dive into other research that I may not dive into normally.
Yeah.
For years, and I think I even said on this podcast, for years, my assumption is that airline pilots probably die early.
Exactly. I've heard the same thing.
I mean, I flew for 12 years. I remember riding the escalator up the Concourse E over at Hartsfield, and you see all the big international planes. They had the better food options, so I'd go over there and eat sometimes.
Of course.
And I'd see these pilots coming down the escalator, and they're probably in their 50s, and it looked like they were 80 years old.
Right.
And I thought, man, I don't know if I want to keep doing this forever. These guys look really old, right?
Aged.
And so I thought, and there was a study out that evidently had some faulty assumptions to it, but I had read something in the past that pilots die sooner because of exposure to radiation and all these different things. So I went into Grok, which is X's AI, and I said, pilots die early because of these reasons. correct. Mm-hmm. And then it comes back with actually, and then it shows me all these studies. So I was able to get use the references for each of the studies and dive directly into them. So I thought I'd share some of that just to get this started, because if you're thinking, man, I'm going to get out of there as soon as I can because this is not good for my health.
Yeah.
Actually, the research, modern research, is showing that that's not necessarily the case. But I'll kind of go in a chronological order. So this is probably the data that I originally saw. There was a 1995 study on U.S. airline pilots, analyzed 1,494 pilots from major U.S. airlines like American or Delta and United, who retired at the mandatory age back then, 1968 to 1993, at age 60.
Okay.
So researchers used life table analysis to estimate survival after retirement and compared it to the U.S. general population for 60-year-old white males. So that was the 1980 census. Again, we're using some older data, but the year was 1995 when they did this. So half the retired pilots were expected to live past age 83.8 versus 77 for the general comparison group, which would be the general population here in the U.S. of white males. Really living 5 years longer than the average person. So we saw that study. They say why do they live a longer life? Basically, it's called the healthy worker effect. Pilots undergo rigorous, repeated FAA medical examinations throughout their careers, leading to early detection and treatment of health issues. Unfit pilots are removed from flying duties, so you tend to want to try to get back to work in most cases, right? Other factors likely include higher socioeconomic status and better access to healthcare. Another study done in 2014 examined 5,964 former commercial cockpit crew members, pilots, co-pilots. It standardized the mortality ratios and compared it to the general U.S. population. All cause mortality. So basically, for all the reasons you might die, pilots had a decreased mortality. So they were healthier. They were living longer. Cancer greatly decreased versus the general population. Cardiovascular disease mortality greatly decreased. Obviously, aircraft accidents. So the general population is not going to be in an aircraft accident, most likely. So it was highly elevated. And there's only not that many accidents
right.
statistically. So obviously that's a work hazard. But you would expect that in this finding.
Yeah.
They also had significantly lower lung cancer mortality. And then, but they did have an increase in brain cancer versus the general population. And that's related to cosmic radiation, to exposure long time periods. So if you do a flight to Europe, it's not that one flight that's getting you.
Yeah.
It's doing that flight hundreds of times
right.
in your career.
Multiple years.
That is making you have brain cancer potentially over the general population. So I thought that was interesting. There's also other data. So where did this come from? A lot of this data came from that. If you read the chat boards, everyone says, "Oh, we all die early." I literally have a neighbor up the street who's a FedEx pilot. He passed away at 64 and is overnight in Germany.
Wow.
And I'm like, "Oh, see, that's it.
Yeah,
that's proof.
Proven."
And so if you look at all the chat boards, all the pilot chat boards, everyone dies early. But actually, that's not the case. Really, it goes back to cosmic radiation is a real thing. There is higher. So if your pilot's going to miss work, it's typically because of cardiovascular disease.
Okay.
And so there's a lot of sitting going on
when
you're an airline pilot. So to all the pilots out there, do your weekly or daily or do your daily, weekly workouts 3 times a day. Is my doctor, or not 3 times a day, 3 times a week.
3 times a day.
Yeah, is what my doctor says. You do it 3 times.
At least go on a walk.
Yes, do something 3 times a week, right?
Yeah.
Anyway, I went through all those, like, is this true? Is this really true? So I just started reading them all.
I know. I agree. I feel like that's the opposite of what you normally hear.
So kind of bringing this back into what we're talking about, if you want to leave it, if you want to retire at 55, you got to plan on getting to at least 88. And we always assume 95 when we do our planning.
Yeah.
But you got to assume at least getting to 88 according to these studies.
Yeah.
And that's assuming you're a healthy pilot, right? There's obviously outliers.
Yeah.
But they say on average, you tend to live 5 years longer because you tend to be taking better care of yourself and you're more physically fit than the general population.
Exactly. I agree. I mean, you're not over here running medical exams on us working here. So like they are at a pilot. So I agree. You are definitely having to take better care of yourself. That's interesting though. I feel like even since working here, I've always been told like pilots, they're said to die sooner just because of all the radiation and stuff. So this is an interesting study. It'll probably even surprise pilots listening too, I feel like.
Yeah, exactly. And do your own research. You will see that the study that was done in Germany on German pilots in the early 90s does show that pilots were dying significantly sooner than the general population. But it was later proven that the data set they were using was incorrect. How they were calculating the averages was incorrect.
Okay.
But that's the one that gets referred to quite a bit. And that was a long time ago, especially when you have these new studies with three times the data at ages where in modern era flying too.
Yeah, for sure.
People aren't smoking Marlboros across the Pacific anymore.
There could have been a lot of things that went into those studies.
Okay, so why is retirement planning different? Different for many reasons.
Yes.
One is just because you have high income doesn't mean you're ready for retirement. I think most people listening would probably say, duh, right?
Yeah.
I thought this was interesting. The Bureau of Labor Statistics reported in 2024 that the median annual wage was $226,000 for airline pilots, including captains and first officers. Average commercial airline pilot is projected to grow his or her income by 4% per year. That's about right. They have step raises typically around 3, and then you have contract increases every typically 6 years, hopefully. That would lead to that. So what the issue is in my mind is you have this what's called the golden decade. So between 55 and 65, you have those are the highest earning years.
Yes.
You're typically flying aircraft that are larger, going further. You're getting thus paid more money. Mm-hmm. All the major airlines are contributing 18% into your 401k plan. That really adds up the more money you make.
For sure.
You're making $600,000 a year and you're getting 18%. It's very different than when you're a new hire getting paid $150,000 a year, right? So that is that's hard. That's really gonna be hard to walk away from for a lot of people. But I would say that we do hundreds of pilot plans every single year. One of the ones that you and I worked on recently was a situation where the commuting was hard. Yeah. Lived in a different country. Yeah. In the end, it wasn't so much about the money. It was just about the lifestyle.
Exactly.
And maybe he's a healthy person, but the commuting was killing his family life. Right? Because he had to leave so early.
Oh, for sure. I mean, at that age, you are only having, you can drop trips. You can take a certain amount of trips per month. But whenever you have to commute literally from a different country, that kind of eats up some of the days off that you have. So
what I would do is compare it at different ages. Mm-hmm. So look, maybe 55 is when you want to retire, but look at the retirement numbers, the income expectations at 58, 60, 62, and 65. Look at all these side by side, compare and contrast. Because once you leave, it's really, you can't go back and get that seniority number. Once you leave, you're gone. 65, you don't have a choice, but 55, you're leaving 10 years on the table. Perhaps it's a different scenario. Maybe you received an inheritance and that 10 years isn't as important to you anymore. And you're just kind of done and there's no place to hide out and you just don't want to do any more qualifications. You don't want to do any more trips, period. You want to travel for yourself. Yep. And you get one life to live and maybe that's the reason to hang it up. Yeah. Makes sense. So I don't want to judge anyone who thinks they should do that. But typically my answer is, drop as many trips as you can, fly the minimum schedule and
keep the health care.
yeah, exactly. So I would say first place you got to start is with the spending number. It's like, what is it going to cost you to live? And I kind of chuckled when I saw this. The average household, this is according to the BLS consumer expenditure data via FRED. That's the federal government's where they generate all the stats and everything. Households between age 55 and 64 had an annual expense of $84,000. This is across the U.S. 65 and older have an average annual expense of $61,000. Now, I'd say most people that probably come to us are well above average in their spending because that seems a little low to me.
It does, yeah.
But that's the starting point. So if you want to know what the average spending is, and you don't have country club memberships, and you don't have boats, and you don't have airplanes, and you just live in a 3-bedroom, 2-bath house at 2,000 square feet, then that can probably be you right there. Nothing wrong with that. But that's what are our core living expenses? What does it going to take to make sure that we keep a roof over our head and our cars in good order and food, right? Mm-hmm. And then you have your travel, your hobbies, and your lifestyle. Add that to the mix. Your debt servicing, or hopefully you're debt free. Yeah. I'll add here that if you're going to retire early, you really should be definitely debt free.
If you're retiring early,
then you probably could live on $80,000 a year. So take into account any debt or major purchases you have to make during retirement. And then here's the big one: healthcare. Mm-hmm. That's really the biggest issue. We'll get into that in a second. But what are your healthcare costs before you get to Medicare age and then after Medicare age?
Yeah,
we have tables that can help that fill that in for depending on which state you're in. And then obviously taxes. How much do we need to pay in taxes? Mm-hmm. That's the easiest thing to calculate in my mind,
right?
In this list.
Depends what accounts you have though available to you.
Yes, yeah, very true.
It's different per person.
So what does retirement cost when you are no longer flying? You finally have time to do things you want to do, enjoy the lifestyle that you work for. What does that cost? That's step number one.
Yeah.
Right. Number 2 is going to be 55 to 65. If we want to do this, your healthcare is going to be stupid expensive because there's not any airlines that are offering retiree healthcare.
Right.
So you're going to have to go in company COBRA. You can only do that for so long. You can't do it for 10 years.
No.
If depending on where your assets are. So if your assets are mostly in brokerage accounts, you can keep your income low.
Yeah.
You can get credits through the marketplace, right? For now, Affordable Health Care Act still exists. You can get some credits. You can really lower your healthcare cost. I wouldn't go without healthcare costs. Those are years that you need healthcare the most likely. But between 55 and 65, that is going to be your that's going to be your biggest issue is how do I pay for my healthcare? In our plans, a person retiring early for a married couple in today's dollars, we probably estimate about $25,000 to $30,000 a year.
Yeah, I would say sometimes it gets a little out there, but average 25 to 30.
That includes some copays.
Yeah. That's like the best of the best is kind of what we're trying to project. Being super conservative because you could get something that may be cheaper, but we just want to, that's what we're projecting out. But it breaks a plan sometimes.
Oh yeah. And then that number increases by 5.3%
exactly
per year for 10 years. So it's going to keep getting bigger.
Yeah.
And if you're projecting that number out, you're going to retire, you're at 45 and you want to retire at 55, then I would guesstimate probably something closer to $40,000 a year is what healthcare is going to cost.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. For a couple for sure.
So that in addition to your spending money and all your fun stuff, now once you turn 65, that'll drop significantly.
It does, yes.
So that's something you have to work into your calculations.
Not all financial advice is created equal. Available now. Everything your financial advisor won't tell you. An eye-opening book that reveals what's really happening inside the financial industry and what it takes to build a plan that actually works. Because what you don't know could be costing you.
So then we go, all right, we have our number. Let's say it's $100,000 a year. We have our healthcare added to that. So it's another $25,000 a year. So 125 is what we need. Where does this money come from?
Yeah.
So if it's 55 and 60 to 65, we have access to our 401k plan because we retire. We leave the money in the custodian at the 401k, and then we can pull out money to live on.
Yes.
which is taxable in most cases, unless you have Roth money. The first option, it would be a brokerage account. So this is money that you've set aside in addition to your retirement savings. So if you're 35 years old and you want to retire at 55, max out your 401k, but then put additional money into a brokerage account.
It requires some planning if you know you want to retire at 55. Contributing to a brokerage account would be super beneficial to you. Because the age 55, the 72T also has a lot of like stipulations with it.
Mm-hmm.
You have to take substantial equally payments, at least for 5 years. You can't stop it before 5 years. So that'll get you to age 60 minimum. Those are just some things that people don't know either. But a brokerage account would be best case scenario, but not everyone has that, you know.
And if you rolled money into an IRA, you can't access it without 10% penalty. That's where that 72T comes in.
Yes.
So you can pull money out of an IRA, but you're going to have to take substantial equal payments, like you said, for 5 years. And it might be a bigger number than you want, which is going to put you in a tax bracket. You don't get to choose your number. There's a formula set by the government that you use for that. So we want to avoid IRAs. Roth IRAs, you could technically get your principal back if it's been in there for 5 years, but you still can't take your earnings out until 59 and a half.
Yeah.
So that's
limited.
That's somewhat limited. You kind of want to leave that for later in life as well. So a brokerage account's ideal. Maybe there's inheritance you received that's outside of retirement accounts. If it's a inherited IRA, you could get access to it without having to pay the 10% penalty. So that's probably maybe another first area to go to. Could be from other things, like maybe you just need some money from your 401k, but you're going to do a part-time job somewhere.
You
know, you're working 5 hours a week or something, you know, you could supplement that.
We see that a lot too.
Or if there's you have an older spouse, has access that we could access their resources to live on that without penalties. That could be another area. Every family is just so different. If you have access to pensions, typically that's not going to work unless it's a military pension. So you can live off a military pension. So there's so many different ways to slice it. How our software looks at it is you have these different buckets to choose from.
Right.
And it's going to optimize where to pull from with no penalties or low penalties. And then it'll calculate the maximum. So it might be spinning down some of your brokerage account money really fast, but it's doing that to preserve the IRA or the Roth. And then it might spin that down fairly quickly to preserve a higher Social Security benefit in the future. And then there's other things that make it more complicated. There's nobody retiring with a PBCG right now. That's, that's going to be 55, right? All that's the generation above them.
Right.
But you could have pensions from other parts of your life, or a spouse might have a pension. These are all things that get calculated into this. But ideally, you don't want to spend down any IRA money. You want to keep money in your 401k, withdraw it from there, use a brokerage account first if you can, and then after that you just file a 72T and do a withdrawal.
Your withdrawals,
do a withdrawal that way. Being debt free is going to be super important for 55 retirement. There's also, we didn't really talk about in our show notes, but some people medical out.
Yes.
And that's not a horrible thing.
Yeah.
You're going to get about 85%, I believe, your first year, at least at Delta. American United are very similar. Then it drops by your third year. You get about 50% of your pay that you were getting in the year prior. And then most airlines are still putting in your 401k contribution. So it's not a bad situation. It could be a lot worse. But again, it depends on your debt level and how much debt.
Right. If that's going to cover all your expenses.
Retiring early also creates other opportunities. I mean, if you're in a situation where you have brokerage account money and you're living on that, your income tax is going to be super low, maybe zero. And if that's the case, then you have a great opportunity to convert IRA to Roth during that time span. You could probably convert $150,000 a year pretty easily for a married couple if you had zero income otherwise.
Right.
So there's a lot of options from a tax standpoint that you need to be considering. Even if you retire at 55. Now, if you're on disability and it's a pretty decent substantial amount of money, you may not be able to do that, but you might have some window, but it's not going to be hundreds of thousands of dollars. It might be 20,000 or 10,000 that you can convert fairly easily.
Yeah.
So what I would do is if you think about early retirement, break it down into different different categories. So we have what we call a what if worksheet. We can create these different scenarios so we can show you side by side 55, 60, or 65. And those are just numbers. And then you have to apply the lifestyle.
Yeah.
You'd say, well, I know 65 is better than 60, but I've got some things I want to do, right? You talked about it earlier, is like retiring with purpose. Do you have a purpose? I don't think I've never had anyone come to me and say, I'm just lazy. I don't want to work. Typically there's a reason.
Yes.
So that reason might be worth whatever the difference is
for sure.
in income. Yeah. We just got to work with you to make sure that it's going to work, that you're not, that your budgets are realistic, that everything makes sense, and you don't jump and go, oh, I forgot my parachute.
Yeah.
Right. So there's some pros and cons to all this. Retiring 55, more time and freedom, ability to leave aviation earlier, more years in active retirement. The pressure point is going to be 10 years of healthcare before Medicare. You're going to have a longer portfolio drawdown period, because what we learned at the beginning of this segment is pilots actually live longer than the general population. More exposure to sequence of return risk. That means that you retire, but then market goes down, 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 right? And then so you have to weather that storm before you can get up to the other. Now we have a whole cash bucket system that helps, doesn't eliminate that, but helps reduce the effects of that.
Yeah.
But sequence of return risk is really important to think about from a super early retirement period. And also you're leaving your peak earning years on the table. You're not getting the biggest paychecks for those last 10 years. If you retire at 60, you got 5 years fewer to worry about until Medicare. 5 more years of possible contributions and compounding. It may still allow for a substantial early retirement period, meaning you get 5 years, you retire at 60, it's 5 years sooner. Yes, you're leaving some money on the table, but you had 5 more years of compounding to get there. Pressure points, still got this 5 years you got it covered. Those are going to look expensive to you, especially with healthcare. Social Security, your Social Security claiming strategy needs a careful review here, because most people are going to want to run to that age 62 and start taking that money. And that's probably not the best scenario. You probably still need to be waiting until 67, 70 ideally.
Yeah.
You have to be careful about your lifestyle spending, what's happening at age 60. Are all the kids out of college? Is all that good? Or do you still have potential for really high expenses? You have to think about that. Age 55, same pressure point as well. If you go to 65, hey, that aligns with Medicare eligibility. So that eliminates the crazy healthcare expenses, preserves your maximum career earnings for many pilots. It reduces the number of years the portfolio must fund you before major retirement benefits begin. But the planning pressure is that might not be the lifestyle or a health perspective that you want for yourself.
Yeah.
You might, age 65 is the limit, right? For pilots. So if you're not ready for retirement and you get to 65, there's some options, but it's not as lucrative as the option you have right now.
Yeah.
Right. We've seen that over the years. Right. And then your Social Security timing is really important. You don't want to retire at 65, and you probably don't want to just take Social Security right at 65. That typically the math doesn't work there. You want to wait till full retirement age,
from your portfolio first,
potentially age 70.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of there's so many things that you have to think about prior to retirement, not just early retirement, any retirement. What happens if the market falls 20% in the first couple of years?
Yeah.
You got to stress test that.
You got to be able to weather it.
Are you ready for that? Do you have enough cash reserves for that? The healthcare shock, which we've been talking about. One we haven't covered yet is inflation.
Yeah.
If inflation is the Fed targets 2%, we use 2.5%. I'm starting to wonder if we should start using 3%.
I know.
Based on what's happening and with inflation. But if, a lot of people calculate this stuff on their own. And so they calculate retirement and say, this works. And then 15 years from now, they're gonna be like, this doesn't work anymore. And it's because they didn't take into the account the rising costs of living.
Just living. Yeah.
They assume that their income stays the same the entire time. They didn't inflate it.
Yeah. And it's kind of hard for them to know how to build a portfolio too, to weather that. And that's going to look different at 55 and 65.
Yeah.
Because like our average retirement portfolio at 65 isn't going to look the same at 55, because you need to weather longer.
Right.
To be able to get through inflation.
Well, a lot of people, they come in, talk to us. They think, oh, well, I want to move to like a dividend strategy and I'm going to buy these stocks and they pay this much yield and I'm going to live just off the yield.
They want the income. Yeah.
And that's not going to work.
No.
And unfortunately, a lot of the big companies that are paying these big dividends are having to borrow money to pay the dividends. So you have some risk there. Can these companies keep this up? Are they going to turn into the next GE?
Yeah.
AT&T has a threat of that potentially. So, and then if you buy the index funds, which we recommend typically to build portfolios with low cost ETFs, the income gets diluted a little bit because you have thousands of companies in there.
For sure.
So it's really hard to live off just income these days. You have to look at income and growth. So the income investors have not done as well.
No, yeah.
Just because of that. So you have to look at a total portfolio.
Yes.
The other thing we haven't really talked about is longevity of your spouse. Like we've met with some people recently that the spouse is like, everyone in my family's made it to 100.
Yeah.
So we might plan for 105 for you because this is a modern medicine time now, right? Also, large one-time expenses are things you have to take into account. So if you want to renovate your home or you need to support adult children, weddings, family caregiving, I just went through that. Second home costs. These are all large one-time expenses that have to get worked into your plan. You can't ignore those.
No.
Also tax law changes. How sensitive is your plan to higher taxes? I personally don't think that we're going to be in a higher tax environment, and that we could have a whole podcast just on that. But just seeing with the advances and efficiencies with AI, I think that the tax rates probably stay about where they are.
The same, yeah. Yeah,
giving the government more money doesn't mean they're going to balance their budget. Typically means they're going to spend more money.
Yes.
So that's typically not going to be the solution to the long-term change. And then reduced spending flexibility. So do you have the ability to cut your budget should the market decline? We typically don't plan that way.
Right.
There are firms out there that say, hey, live this kind of lifestyle, but if things get bad, we're going to cut you half. We're going to cut it all by half. And I was like, I don't want to make that phone call.
Yeah.
I don't want to call up somebody and say, I want you to live your best life, but I don't want you to be in a situation where like, market's bad this year.
Right.
You have to cut everything out.
Cut it in half.
That's not gonna work.
You're gonna have unhappy clients too.
Right.
Everyone's gonna be unhappy.
But there's firms that do that. It's a whole philosophy, whole podcast on it. I don't want to be that volatile with my spending. I want to know this is, I can stay within this range. And
no matter what, for sure.
And I think most of our clients live below their means. So they do that automatically anyway.
They do.
We're usually typically telling them to spend more money.
I know. Always having to tell people, do what you want, spend more money, enjoy retirement.
So anyway, it's the retirement plan only works as strong enough for a 55-year-old as what the market can support in the stock market and how we invest. So you have to take into account so many different variables. We use a Monte Carlo, which looks at 1,000 different stock and bond market scenarios, come up with a probability of success. So we want retirees to be around 82% chance of not running out of money before age 95. Most people aren't going to look at it that way. They're going to use, if you look at individuals and they plan, they go, I can get an 8% rate of return and I'm going to do this. And again, 8% is a little strong. I would probably be planning on 6.5. And if you get the double digits returns we've had in the last 10 years, that's great.
Just looks better.
We just keep increasing what you can do and spend. But I would not bank on the market giving you 8% every year for retiree portfolio.
For sure. Yeah.
That's only probably about half in the market in the end. So anyway, hope this helps. I think that, the purpose is, I don't think there's many pilots that are going to try to retire at 55.
Yeah.
But these are all things you should even be thinking about for an age 65 retirement.
Yeah.
You can't sit there and hope that they come out with age 67 retirement because you need 2 more years to save. The guys that I've known that have gone to corporate flying aren't super happy post 65. I mean, you just probably came off of flying an A350 or A330 or super senior guy on a A320 in Atlanta, and now all of a sudden, you're a nobody, right? And you're flying just kind of someone calls you and says, I need to go somewhere.
Yeah.
Or you might be in a flex jet. I had a guy who went to flex jet and he was really unhappy because they don't run it like an airline.
Yeah.
It was run more like a small business and they didn't like that feel. It wasn't very professional.
That's a change up, right?
So, yeah. And also too, you're the big time airline pilot coming into the more corporate feel, and there's going to be some animosity there. I think. Now, other guys have been successful at like Delta Professional Services and doing sim instruction and teaching the next generation of pilots, and
that's been more enjoyable.
And they've been very happy in those positions, and they also get to choose their schedule, right? So there is life after retiring, and if you need to keep working, but let's plan ahead. So that's optional.
Yes.
You said it best before we started when we're doing our prep for this podcast, which was pilots need to retire
with purpose.
With purpose.
Yeah, no, for sure. We have a lot of them. I just feel like, we have pilots come in and they have like bad weeks, bad months or whatever. They're like, I'm so over this job. I'm annoyed with whoever I'm flying with, or you're on the way there. Like, it's just a bad commute is what I'm trying to say. Because we have a lot of people that aren't in base,
right.
and they're flying just to fly.
Flying just to fly. That's right.
We see that a lot. And no, you don't want to just say, you know what, I'm done. I'm tired of it. I'm done. Because like you said, you can't go back. And then you retire and you forgot about the purpose that you're retiring to. And it's just, you have to have, and this is with anyone, not just pilots, but especially pilots. Still, you have to retire to a purpose, because that also helps with longevity if you retire into a purpose. And whether that is you do want to travel on your own time, whether you want to be with your kids more, your wife more, whatever it is, I think that you just need to have that set in stone before you just all of a sudden make the decision.
Yeah. You need to have a game plan.
Yeah, a game plan for sure.
I mean, I stopped way early. I stopped flying in 2014, but I'll say I struggled for a little bit.
Yeah.
It was like,
well, it's a shift.
That was me. That was so much a part of my life. And then, but
it's an identity.
I was building a company.
Yeah.
So, but I had this to focus on.
Yeah.
But
it's something to do.
I left willingly. I didn't leave because someone asked me to.
For sure.
I was like, okay, I can't keep doing both.
Yeah.
I got to pick a career path, and this is the one I chose. But it was a tough transition. I see that with other pilots, and they're, a lot of them are men. They're not trained to talk about this stuff. They gotta swallow their feelings. But the reality is you probably don't miss work, but you probably miss some aspects of it.
Yeah.
But you definitely have to have, what are you going to do when your feet hit the floor in the mornings? What are you working on?
Yeah.
It could be something really simple, but it could
be redoing your backyard,
right?
Renovating your entire house. I don't know.
Right.
We always hear, I feel like as soon as someone retires, they have all these renovations, all these plans. They want the second home.
Yeah.
Whatever it is, you don't have to be traveling at all. A lot of pilots just want to stay home.
No, they don't want to travel anymore.
So whatever it is, just have that in mind before you just make the decision, especially if you want to retire early.
Yep. These are all good things to think about. And obviously, we're here. Our planning team's here. We have Michaela is really good with pilots and who have military background.
Yes.
She's going to start working on a certification for military people and their benefits. But the reality is she already knows a lot as
she does.
as it is. So it's reach out to us. We have lots of resources. You can actually go. A lot of people think you're here just to manage assets. We derive most of our revenue from managing assets, but we also have a flat fee financial planning program, and that's what we offer to our pilots that are still working.
Right.
And that program's been really successful. Our competitors want to manage money inside a brokerage link, and I was like, that's not the important part. The important part is the planning. And so we have free models. Everyone else is charging 1 to 1.5% for. We give away for free on our website. You can go to wiserinvestor.com and click on the pilot section. And you can find your airline. You can download our allocations. Andrew has built those. Take a risk questionnaire. Obviously, you're younger, be on the more aggressive side.
Yeah.
If you're older, be maybe more to the moderate side, especially within maybe a couple of years of retirement.
Right.
But these are all free resources that are available to you to download. You don't have to interact with us. We're not going to call you.
Yeah.
It's just these are out there because I'm like pilots need this. They need in-depth financial planning. They don't need an asset manager for their 401k plan at this point. So be sure to go and find that free resource. And then the planning part, this is where we would like to work with you.
Yeah.
We have some other episodes related to this, episode 259, what pilots and others should consider 5 years before mandatory retirement. Episode 322, how airline pilots can make the most of their profit sharing bonus. That's something to think about too. As your profit sharing time period rolls around, maybe you need to be applying that to debt so that you can live debt free. And then if you want to retire sooner, that gives you an opportunity to do that. But thanks for joining me on this discussion, Grace. And thanks for listening to today's episode. If you're interested in learning more about Wiser Wealth Management or want to schedule a consultation to meet one of our fiduciary financial advisors, you can do so by going to wiserinvestor.com, or you can click on the link in the episode notes. We'll see you guys again next week.
Thanks for listening to a Wiser Retirement podcast. We hope you enjoyed today's episode. Make sure to subscribe wherever you're listening. That way you don't miss any new episodes. We'd also appreciate if you could leave a rating and review. If you have any questions about anything that was discussed today, head to wiserinvestor.com and reach out. This podcast is strictly for informational purposes only and is not to be considered as investment advice or solicitation to buy or sell any financial products, securities, digital assets, or any other investment vehicles, or a basis to make any financial decisions. Wiser Wealth Management Incorporated is a registered investor advisor with the SEC. The host and/or guests may personally own securities, digital assets, or other investment vehicles mentioned on this podcast. Neither the host nor guests of the show are compensated for their participation, and no referral fees are paid to or received by any host or guest for clients, listeners, or similar interests. Investments involve risk, and unless otherwise stated, are not guaranteed. Be sure to first consult with a qualified financial advisor, tax professional, insurance professional, and/or legal professional before implementing any strategy discussed herein. Past performance is not indicative of future performance.